I enjoy Christmas films, but I particularly enjoy creepy Christmas films. As a huge horror addict, I love watching dark Christmas films. And when I heard about Christmas Evil, the 1980 film, sorry, I thought it sounded right up my street. I had quite high hopes for this one. Unfortunately, I was massively disappointed. It's written and directed by Lewis Jackson, and it stars. Well, it's got quite a range of cast members in it, but it stars Brandon Maggart as our protagonist Harry. And at the beginning of the film, it's the 1940s, I think, and we see Harry as a young boy, and young Harry happens upon Santa Claus. It turns out it's actually his father is Santa Claus, but Santa getting very intimate with his mother. And this very sexual Christmas imagery kind of scars him for life. And then very quickly we jump so many years into the future, and Harry is now working in a toy factory, which I thought was a pretty good trope. I like the kind of connection there between the childhood innocence and then carrying that childhood playful quality into his adulthood, even though he is, the exact opposite of that. Um, because he learned he learned the truth about Santa. I shan't say what it is in case we have some believers, but he learned the truth. And that scars him because of the way he learned that. That's obviously horrible. And he dresses up as Santa and goes and kills a load of people. But it's not good. Now that premise is amazing. I love that. I love that idea of somebody becoming really quite mentally unwell and then doing a lot of damage around Christmas. Fantastic plot. Doesn't work. The reasons why it doesn't work, first of all, there's no real insight into his mental health. I don't know how much research the writer did into what that mental scarring would have done to his emotional development. When you go through that level of trauma, your emotional development becomes stalled, as well as other developments. And it could have done a really great, even just as a subplot, a great analysis of his mind and how he was affected by that. But it doesn't do that. It just assumes that he went psycho. There's no kind of real analysis to it or reason behind it. So the first reason is that there's just no explanation or no kind of scientific basis for it, I guess. Whereas if there was a scientific backdrop, it would make more sense and it would feel more real because it could really happen and it would feel scarier. The second of three reasons, I think, why I didn't like it is that not much happens. I mean, for the first 7 minutes, there are about 2 lines of dialogue, which, some films can do that and get away with it. Not this film. It was very dull, very slow to progress. I think the first kill was about halfway through. I'm not sure exactly, I wasn't clock watching, but it's probably about halfway through. So it's very slow progressing. Not that many people die. The way in which people are killed, not that interesting, not creative, very basic. It doesn't utilise the Christmas aspect at all. At one point, I don't want to spoil it too much, but I don't really recommend the film anyway. He was using an axe. Nothing Christmassy about that whatsoever, except I think the axe was dressed up to look Christmassy. But it would have been much better if he'd, got a display of a giant candy cane, snapped it in half, and used the sharp shards to stab somebody in the face. That, to me, would have been exciting, Christmassy. It would have made sense. But the way this person kills people is just very dull and boring. And the third reason I didn't like it is that when the kills do happen, they're always in dark environments, which to a degree makes sense. They're either outside at night or they're in a dark room. But then you can't really see properly. You can't see the blood spatters. You can't see the fear on the victims' faces. You can't see the blades going down. So it's like you're not watching it. You might as well just take those out and just say, oh, Harry killed somebody when you weren't looking at the screen. So even though there are some deaths, some kills, and it is a slasher, you can't really see it, so you don't get the effects. No, it's not a jump scare film. It does, as a slasher would, rely on the visuals, and the visuals just aren't there. So, great premise, fantastic premise, abysmal execution. Harry is a character massively underdeveloped. Ironically, his emotions were underdeveloped, but as a character written, he was not written very well. He was acted fine. I have nothing wrong with any of the acting performances in this film. But again, it was darkness, couldn't really see the emotions on the killers' faces. So there was a lot that was kind of left to the imagination, and when it comes to horror, that only works if it's a twisted thriller horror. That doesn't work for a slasher film. A slasher is about the visuals. So we couldn't see the kills that happened. The kills that did happen were very boring, and we didn't actually get that many of them. Poorly developed narrative, poorly written character. Not a good film at all. It's got a 5.6 out of 10 on IMDb, which I think is far too generous. And I'm never negative about a film. I can usually always find something in a film that I think was done really well. There is absolutely nothing in this. The soundtrack is offensive. It's so offensive to the ears. It just doesn't make sense. It's very jarring and not in a good way. It's just, I don't know how this film exists. Or indeed how I found out about it. If you've seen Christmas Evil, I hoped you like it. I hope you liked it, because, you know, some people obviously put a lot of hard work and time and effort into this. Sadly, it just didn't come across on the finished product. But maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there's something there that I'm just not seeing, despite the fact I have seen hundreds of horror films and I know what works, but there is just something in this that maybe I'm not getting. Let me know what you think if you've seen it. If you haven't seen it, watch the original Black Christmas instead if you want a horror Christmas film, or a Christmas horror film. Black Christmas, the original, is a good one to go for. Christmas Evil is not.